Well, welcome back into the Mid-Norfolk farm garden, and one of my tasks today, or this spring, and I'm saying today, I'm not sure whether I'm going to actually complete moving this, but I've got to move some of these rhubarb crowns. This is our established rhubarb border that's been here since we bought the farm almost 12 years ago. We've gradually extended it right the way along this run, and we've probably got 5 or 6 really large crowns in here. They're just starting to emerge from their winter hibernation. You can just see these massive buds just starting to erupt through with this bright pink fresh growth. Now this is, I think, the best time to try and move rhubarb if you're going to, before it's established into full growth but just starting into its spring period. If you leave it much longer and the growth has already started, you're going to really knock it back. But I think if we move it now, we've got a good chance of actually moving it while it's still largely dormant and it growing away successfully in its new position without too much of a knockback or sudden shock to the crown. These are big crowns, and I think they're going to have a massive root run underneath them, and part of what I'm going to try and do is get as much root out as I possibly can to move decent sized chunks of this. But I'm not expecting to move any single crown as a single body. The root's probably going to be 4 or 5 feet across, and it's the peripheral bits of growth that I think I'm going to have far more success. So let's get a spade in here, start uncovering some of the soil and roots under some of these buds and see what we are faced with. Well, I've started trenching around this peripheral spur of this crown. You can see we've got a few roots exposed. You can just see how thick they are. This is the main one, I think, going down. I'm going to have to continue digging for quite a long period. You can see there's very little in the way of fibrous root on the surface of these crowns. They form these really thick and very deep rooted established crowns, and I want to try and get as much root out as possible. So I'm going to continue digging, go down probably about another 18 inches. What I'm also finding, this whole patch is just riddled with, this is bindweed root, a really horrible weed. Once you've got it deep rooted, again going down 2 or 3 feet, I really don't want to take any of that through into the new area where I'm going to plant this crown once we've got this piece loose from the main body. So let's continue digging and see how we go on. Well, we're down about 18 inches now, and still no fine fibrous roots. All we're doing is going through some of these thicker bits and they're breaking off. They're quite soft and brittle. If you try moving them at all in the soil, they just split, and that's probably not a great idea. Better if they had a straight cut on them rather than them bruising and getting damaged all the way along their length. So I've made a decision. What I'm going to do now is try and get a spade in the top of the crown and take a split section of this root away, loosen it and lift it up and see if I've got something that looks as it's going to be a viable piece of rhubarb crown to transform down into the new garden and will grow away. Let's get this out the ground and see what we're left with. Good, well this is what lifted out. You can see where we've cut through with the spade. The old wooden looks very soft and almost rotten, the crown there, but it's lifted away nicely. We've got a good bit of root, some small fibrous roots coming away from it. Those are what we want to really try and conserve, because they'll be the lifeline that will grow away and support this. That one's broken off, unfortunately. Really didn't want that, but we've got a good crown. We've got lots of buds forming on it. We've got some fibrous roots. We'll try and gently plant back into its new position, and I'm quite happy that we've got most of the bindweed root out of this clump. So let's take this, we'll try and get another couple actually and do it all in one go and plant it as a clump of 3, probably about a foot between the various crowns in a nice deep hole, and that will hopefully give us a new decent sized clump that next year, if we manage to get this to survive and grow on, will continue to give us good crops of rhubarb. Well, here are the crowns that I've managed to dig up from that old patch. We've got a lovely selection of them. They're really good sized crowns as well. Lots of bud, lots of root. This one particularly, once I dug that hole, started oystering towards the side of the hole, they came away much easier than trying to dig them out with a full trench around. I'm going to pop them into this area, which was in the new sunny vegetable garden. Really nice soil here. We grew potatoes in this bit last year, and it's really nice friable earth. So I'm starting to dig holes here, and I'm going to get the first one into that hole, and hopefully I'm going to have to dig some quite deep holes because these are probably around 18 inches. I don't want to try and do any more damage to these roots if I can possibly help it and get them in, so they're sitting just at the right level that they were growing at previously, with the crowns coming just through the surface. So let's see how we get on. Well, I'm really pleased with the way those have gone in. Got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 crowns positioned really nicely in this new border. Growing them, as you can see, quite close together. So I want these to sort of become a confluent row of rhubarb on this lower half of this border. I'm hoping with this soil, if I just backfill these up now, firm them in nicely, and then later in the season I'll probably come on with a further top dressing of mushroom compost, which I've got a massive pile of just next to me. But we'll keep you updated on these. I'm going to water them in really well now, even though the soil here is moist. I don't want these to dry out at all. I really want those roots to get some immediate nutrition and start repairing themselves. So we'll backfill all these in very gently, working the soil right the way down. It's particularly important with these big crowns that you make sure that you don't leave any air pockets. Look, you can see that just starting to fill in. You've got to use your fingers for this, otherwise you'll do more damage to those roots. And again, puddling them with water will help wash all this compost down around these roots and hopefully get them really firm. I'll tread quite firmly on the top surface once I've exposed all these buds so I don't damage those, but just to get them firm in with no air pockets is the real trick to these transferring now and getting good contact with this new fresh lovely soil so that they grow away. So let's hope this time next year I'll have a lovely fresh crop of buds coming through the surface of the soil here, ready for covering with either water tanks or cloches. We'll keep them from the light and force the rhubarb for that beautiful pink early rhubarb that I so enjoy eating later in the spring. Well, there's the end result with my transferred, dug, planted rhubarb crowns. Watered them nicely in. They're sitting just at the right height, coming through the surface, and I'm hoping these are going to get established over the next year, grow away. I'm not going to harvest anything off them this year. Obviously, with freshly planted things like asparagus or rhubarb, you really need to give them a few years before you start stressing them by cutting the green growth and shoots out to eat or harvest. So a couple of years, keep them well watered this year, keep them well fed as well. I'm going to use good top dressing of this lovely pile of well rotted mushroom compost which we had delivered by tractor and trailer a few years ago. It's just sitting there beautifully now, starting to get some weed growth in it, signal that it's okay to go straight onto the surface and be worked into the top of this soil. It will really improve the fertility and nutrients in there. Got a lovely crop of lamb's lettuce under this cloche that we put in the end of last season. Some spinach coming along as well. I really need to get in there and give that a good weed. Just look, got a good crop of spring green salad leaves in there. Along the end we've got a bit of spicy mizuma, another sort of Asian salad leaf that's overwintered well, and the spinach really well looking. I think that's probably going to benefit from tidying up, a bit of weeding and starting to crop some of these young leaves so it doesn't run to seed too quickly. I want to get in there and take both a salad crop and a green leaf spinach crop. I think I've got enough. There's about 7 or 8 plants in there, so it should do well.